Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today is going to be a little bit of a different video, and this is going to be I guess it's not really a top 10 list, but it's just a list of 10 cards that I wish were in 1.0. So 1.0 wasn't bad, it's just we already knew what the format was going to be like before the set even came out, just because we had all of the information over on Japan on how all of the cards had performed, and kind of formulated what their impact would be with some of the other cards that we got. So it wasn't exactly super hard to figure out that Omnimon was going to be one of the best decks in the format, just because Omnimon has been proven to be very, very powerful, and the fact that 1.0 gave us basically zero tools to really effectively deal with Omnimon kind of is like one of the big reasons on why Omnimon has been performing as well as he has been. There's a whole bunch of other reasons, but that's just one of the big ones. So I felt like if they could have changed up 1.0 just a little bit to incorporate some other cards, then 1.0 could have been a little bit more of a different format with a little bit more variety and diversity. So these are just 10 cards that I think would have helped contribute to that variety and diversity. So starting off, we have Penguinmon. So Penguinmon is a pretty solid Digimon just because he has a very, very aggressive stat line for a rookie. So Penguinmon definitely would have helped a lot of these go wide aggressive blue decks out, just because they would have given them a rookie that has a lot more higher survivability. So this would have been really good in those Rookie Rush style strategies, or this could have been really, really good in the Leopardmon style decks, just because, again, it has a bigger body on a low-cost card, so that way it could potentially live through a lot of the opponent's effects, just because, again, Volcanic Dramon is a very, very powerful thing, and right now these low to the ground go wide strategies don't really have a good enough card quality to really fight back against certain cards that just are able to efficiently pick them off, just because they're forced to play these lower DP cards just because they don't have any other options. And I felt like just having more rookies with 5,000 DP would have helped these aggressive strategies along, and really would have made them more playable than what they currently are. Next up, we have Aurora Bon. So I put Aurora Bon in here for very similar reasons why I put Penguinmon in here. So Aurora Bon is just another very value efficient, low to the ground, high DP rookie card to help these very aggressive go wide strategies along. And I feel like even though Rookie Rush is a very, very powerful deck, it's still lacking a lot of quality in the cards that they're choosing from, and they're just playing with literally whatever they can get. And I felt like if they had Auroramon, then that would have been a much better card to have to make the deck that much more powerful. Even though it doesn't necessarily seem like a huge upgrade, just having a couple of rookies with 5,000 DP does matter. Next up, I felt like 1.0 could have used this version of Salamon. So this version of Salamon is pretty good because it has a nice when destroyed ability. If your security is 3 or less, then you get to recover 1. So right now in 1.0, we don't have a whole lot of payoffs for being at 3 or less security. There's just a handful of cards, but those cards are more fitting in line with what this version of Salamon is doing, and this Salamon definitely would have been a really good rookie for Yellow to be playing with, because right now Yellow just is a very hard color to pilot, and it's a very hard deck to build, and again, the quality of cards isn't exactly there when it could have been with just a couple of minor inclusions. So I definitely feel like this Salamon would have been really, really nice just because the opponent isn't really going to just hold back on their attacks just because you have a couple of really powerful abilities. Being able to recover 1 is nice and all, but it's nothing that's going to stop the opponent from not attacking your security and putting you at that 3 threshold. Right now, again, the only real big payoff card for being at 3 security or less is Kari, and that's not that big of a deal to the opponent to just hold off on you gaining some extra memory from Kari, especially when Kari isn't really that played right now. So I just felt like if Salamon was in 1.0, that would have been just a really good boost to Yellow and Yellow's playability. Next, we have Tsukimon. So Tsukimon is really only in here just because we already got Chumon in 1.0. So it just felt very, very awkward that they left Tsukimon out because he interacts with Chumon directly. So Tsukimon has a very nice when destroyed ability where you get to check the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you get to play 1 Chumon from among them for free, and then the rest go onto the bottom. So this card could have created some really interesting interactions with black, where you could just raw play a Tsukimon, and then if you want, you could think about running Chimeramon in there just to pop the Tsukimon. You could have Tsukimon be aggressing onto the opponent's security just to try to get its when destroyed ability off. Like, there's just so many things that this card could have done, and the fact that we already got Chumon means that we could have got the full interaction that this card could have brought, and who knows, this card might have saw a little bit more play in a whole bunch of different black decks, just because now black has some more options to play with and more synergies to think about. Next, we have Gatomon. So Gatomon is another yellow card that has a really nice inheritable ability of when attacking one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1000 DP for the turn. As I mentioned before with Salamon, yellow just doesn't really have a whole lot of quality cards, and I feel like it, especially in their champion slot, like their champion slot is really bad right now and isn't really doing anything, so Gatomon would have been a really good card to include, so that way they have a champion with a really decent inheritable ability. This kind of already just combos with the starter deck Seraphimon, where he has a nice on-attack ability where you get a minus 4000, then you pair that up with this Gatomon, and then it turns that 4000 minus into a 5000 minus, that you could also potentially split up. So it just would have added a lot more power to yellow as a whole, even though sometimes the ability isn't really going to matter. But the fact that yellow definitely would have had another option in terms of another good card of quality to play definitely would have helped the color out a lot. Next, we have edaman. So edaman, similar to Tsukimon, is just the other half of a combo we already got. So edaman combos very nicely with metal edaman, and the fact that we didn't get edaman in 1.0 is again really weird, considering he interacts with metal edaman, who is in 1.0. And again, similar to Tsukimon, we could have had edaman have some good diversity for black. It could have helped a lot of black strategies go. It could have created some really interesting or new strategies, similar to Tsukimon, where you could have ran like a Tsukimon edaman self-sacrificing deck, just because edaman has a nice ability of when destroyed, you get to check the top 5 cards of your deck and play one level 6 Digimon whose name contains edaman from among them and play it for free, and then the rest go to the bottom. So again, you could have digivolved up into edaman, had him sit on the field because he is a blocker as well, which could have interacted with a whole bunch of the blocker synergies, and then just slam down a Chimeramon or play a small handful of self-sacrificing purple cards to just pop edaman whenever you want, and then just try to dig or play a metal edaman for free because we already got that in the set. And again, just the combo potential that edaman could have had in 1.0 definitely would have helped black out for 1.0. Next, we could have had Cranium On. So Cranium On is a really powerful mega for black, and I felt like Cranium On could have definitely helped it deal with the Omnimon problem, at least for black, just because he has 2 very powerful abilities. His first ability is he has blocker, so he kind of already just synergizes with the whole black blockers theme, and then on top of which he has a nice, really powerful ability of during both players' turns, all your Digimon with blocker can't be destroyed by the opponent's card effects. So because right now there's just not a whole lot of ways of dealing with Omnimon, and Omnimon's level of removal is very powerful, and that's like why he's being pushed so far to the top, just because of how efficient and powerful the card is. Craniumon could have been a huge help in terms of stopping Omnimon from being as powerful for black, just because Omnimon's removal ability will not matter if Craniumon is on the field. And then that allows you to keep a whole bunch of your other black blockers, and then you could start buffing your black blockers on the opponent's turn with ties, and really kind of have this black blocker wall strategy that the deck kind of wanted to do, but was really just missing the Craniumon to really just tie that whole deck together. And I definitely feel like his inclusion in the format of 1.0 would have been a big changer for Black as a whole, just because they do now have that unifying card, and they do have a card that is doing something very, very powerful against the Omnimon decks. And again, like, because Omnimon is such a powerful force, a lot of these cards are just trying to help deal with Omnimon so that way he's not as powerful, but still trying to make the other colors very, very interesting. Next, we could have had Bancho Stingmon. So Bancho Stingmon is just a very, very powerful level 6 for green. So right now, green in 1.0 just, again, is lacking a lot of card quality and card finishers. Like, they do have basically almost all of the other tools to just get into their level 6 as efficiently as possible. And basically, once they do get into their level 6, the level 6s just don't do anything. Like, when we have Titamon as the best level 6 in 1.0, that really says something when Titamon just has a large body. Like, that's all the card does. He just has a large body. He doesn't do anything for the deck. He doesn't support anything with the deck. He's just there to be a large body. So I feel like Bancho Stingmon would have been a really, really good card to help the 1.0 format. There is an argument between choosing Bancho Stingmon over Grand Kawagamon, but I just felt like Grand Kawagamon would have been a more obvious pick, and Bancho Stingmon would have helped against the Omnimon matchups a little bit more. And again, if the whole thing was to try to mitigate or like add in counterplay against Omnimon, then Bancho Stingmon definitely does a better job, just because he has some really powerful abilities. So his first ability that he has is Piercing. So green really has like a lack of piercers, and they really want to pierce. Like, that is a big part of what green is trying to do, is just beat up on the opponent's Digimon and then have piercing damage chip away at their security. So him having piercing already is a really big thing, and then on top of which he has a really powerful when attacking ability. If this Digimon attacks an opponent's Digimon with 12,000 DP or more, then this Digimon gets plus 7,000 DP and security attack plus 2. So there's not exactly in 1.0 a whole lot of Digimon with 12,000 DP, but the fact that there is a handful of them and one of them is Omnimon definitely makes Bancho Stingmon a very, very powerful card to be played with, because we have Flower Cannon to rest him. We have enough efficiency to Digivolve up into Bancho Stingmon. Even though Bancho Stingmon does have some low base DP, we still have ways to DP boost him. So he's not like completely a dead out of the water card. He has Piercing, again, to just help unify what green is trying to do, because right now Hercules Kabuterimon just is not good enough of a green piercer, and it takes a lot of work for Rust Tyrannomon to get piercing and be very, very effective. So I just felt like Bancho Stingmon would have been a very, very powerful card for green in the 1.0 format. Next, we have Clovis Angelmon. So Clovis Angelmon is just another level 6 that yellow could have used. The ability is pretty decent, where he has a nice when attacking ability. If your security is 3 or less, then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 6,000 DP until the end of the turn. This isn't exactly a huge powerhouse card that yellow could have used, but the fact that yellow just lacks in so much card quality means that Clovis Angelmon actually could have stood out a little bit more in terms of his removal options. So you could have had like this weird Clovis Angelmon / Angelmon deck, or you could have had Clovis Angelmon paired up with the starter deck Seraphimon, and then that would have made cards like Gatomon a lot more viable. And like, he just is a little bit more of a payout card to having 3 or less security. And I don't feel like he would have been like a really bad option for yellow to be playing with, because just his on-attack skill is really decent on its own. And it really would start making people think, oh, maybe I shouldn't put them at 3 security versus like Kari just sitting on the field and them just passively gaining a memory. So it's like, it definitely would have made the opponent think a lot harder, knowing that there is payouts to the strategy of being at 3 security or less. And then again, that just could help trigger a lot of your other cards, and definitely would have made yellow a more interesting color to play and gave them a whole bunch of extra variety. And then the last card that I have on this list is the option card for blue, Let's Stop Fighting. So Let's Stop Fighting is a pretty interesting card, considering it's just a really weird card. So it's a blue option card that costs 2, and its main ability is Digimon can't be destroyed until the end of the turn. So this is just really, really powerful, again, for more of those aggressive strategies where they're just trying to beat up on the opponent's security or the opponent's Digimon really early on. And this definitely would have helped not only just you be able to trade your Digimon, but your Digimon being able to hit the security and be able to live, because now the Digimon has another chance to attack, and it really just creates a really interesting dynamic where it's just like, oh, do I try to beat up into their Digimon because I need to because they were able to beat up into my security, or do I try to race them? This just really helps out those aggressive strategies, and one of Omnimon's biggest weaknesses is those aggressive go wide strategies, just because his removal ability is really efficient for one big thing and not necessarily very efficient for a whole bunch of small things. And then again, like the reason why Penguinmon and Auroramon would have been in here is just to help deal with the Volcanic Dramon, even though this card doesn't help deal with Volcanic Dramon. It just would force the opponent to make a lot more awkward or bad plays, just because you would have been able to keep your powerful board that and then its security ability is just adding it to your hand, which again isn't necessarily a bad thing because it allows you to have the option and availability to choose when you want to play this. So you could use this card to some very potent effects in a lot of these aggressive go wide strategies. So all of the cards kind of are playing with one another, or just trying to deal with the fact that the meta is kind of very predictable, and this definitely would have helped shake up the 1.0 meta quite a bit just by adding a few extra cards in. And I definitely felt like 1.0 could have been a little bit better than what it was. Again, I'm not saying that 1.0 was bad, it's just 1.0 was a little bit too predictable in my opinion. And just by adding a little bit more aggressive cards and a little bit other control cards and just some other variety just would have definitely helped spice up the set, whether there were some additions or just some substitutions. I don't exactly know what that would have looked like, just these cards would have been really nice to have in 1.0 to definitely shake up and change the meta even more than what we got. So that's really all I have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you in the next video.